All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to Powered by Authenticity. I hope everybody is having an amazing start to the week. Oh, wait, it's Thursday. Thank goodness that it is finally Thursday. And for tonight, I really want to welcome to the podcast Liz Nicholas. Liz, how are you tonight?
I am so good, and thank you so much for having me. I am so excited. We had such a robust conversation that I was thrilled to join you.
I know. We need to start recording some of our pre-chatter because we get into the conversation before we get into it, which I think is amazing. Well, and thank you for agreeing to be on LinkedIn Live. I really appreciate it. I think there's just such valuable content and work that you're doing to be able to have further reach is just great. So I would love for you to tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Well, I am a mother of 3 grown sons and a Christmas son, but that's a story for another time.
Oh.
I am Mima, grandma, but Mima to 2 grandkids. I want to say grandbabies, but one of them's turning 3 next week. So they're getting into the kiddie stage. My hubby and I just celebrated our 30th anniversary. I remember when we were first getting married, I said, can you imagine being married to someone for 25 years? And he goes, yes. So I'm glad I followed along. I have been at the Trenton Military Family Resource Center in Trenton, Ontario, Canada for 18 years. So just loving what I do, employment and education. So I am their virtual employment and education specialist. And I do some contractual work with our funder, Military Family Services, that reach Canadian Armed Forces, military spouses and veteran spouses and the community as a whole, wherever they're posted. And sometimes that's international as well. So in and out of Canada. So yeah, that's me. And I am like the flower goddess, and I know you and I were talking about it, and I think we have some other plans coming up too. So I'm excited.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Well, welcome. I'm so happy that you were able to join us tonight. And I believe we were introduced by Diane, I believe, correct?
Yes, and she is amazing. I launched her. I do the Your Employment Detective podcast. And I just launched hers, and I'm coming after you too. And she is such a treasure trove of information. And her and I recorded the podcast on a very cold January day. And I was talking about my wood stove, and she was like, "Oh, I love a wood stove." And I didn't get to edit it till we're actually almost having a heat wave here when I edited it. And I was like, oh my goodness, can you imagine? Because sometimes it takes me a little while to get there. I try to be a little ahead of the curve, but she is so amazing, and she has connected me to some of the most wonderful people. So I just feel really blessed and so lucky to get to know everyone. And the conversation you and I had, magic, so much. When I first started teaching virtually and connecting virtually, I thought, yeah, it'll reach more people, but can you truly connect? And now, through her, I feel like I could just, reach out and hug her. Like, she's amazing.
I know. Yeah. And I love the concept of each one lift one. And it's just, so impactful. I think it really is making a difference in people's lives. So it's great to be connected with her. And again, thank you for being here. And we like to do an icebreaker. So we like to get to know our guests at a little bit of a personal level as well. So tonight I'm wondering, what's a favorite movie or TV show that you've seen recently that you really liked?
Yeah, and the recently got me because I always know my most favoriteest movie ever, and that's Mr. Dirty Dancing himself. But I realized that back in the 80s, and then I start to really show my age, so I have to pull back. And I hope I don't disappoint with this answer for TV shows, because usually hubby and I are snuggling up to some murder mysteries, but probably not the best thing to talk about. Some of them are kind of gory. So I don't want to sound too out there, but I gotta say, I enjoyed the Bridgertons. I was surprised that I enjoyed it as much as I did. It's a little bit different this season, but it's kind of neat. I love the outfits and all of that. So all over the Bridgertons,
It is on my list to watch.
Okay.
Definitely. I'm glad to know that you've liked it, because that probably helps me watch it a little bit sooner.
Yeah, yeah. This one was a little bit more risque than I've seen the other ones be, but hey, I'm sure you can do it.
Producer Ken, how's it going tonight?
Hey, it's going good.
All right, TV show or movie?
So, big gamer growing up and everything. So, I've really enjoyed Fallout. That was my favorite new one. Very true to the games, but kind of creating its own storyline.
Series or movie?
It's a series on Amazon Prime.
All right. Oh, yeah, you did mention that.
I did. I binged through it in about a week.
All right, I'm going to have to watch that. So, for me, have you seen If with Ryan Reynolds? Yeah.
No.
It stands for Imaginary Friends. And we watched it for the first time Saturday night, and I've since watched it again. Just a really, really, I think, well-produced movie. He's fantastic in it, and it's just a great story. So I highly recommend If.
I'm going to write that one down. That's awesome. Perfect.
Yeah, it was great. Well, thank you for indulging me. I love to do a little icebreaker there, get to know everybody. So I appreciate that. All right, so I want to hear more about the work that you're doing with the Trenton Military Family Resource Center.
Sure. When I first started there 18 years ago, the position was part-time, and it was specifically stood up to help military spouses and dependents, to help them with their employment and education. So it's always been around employment and education. Over the years, it actually grew into employment, education, and entrepreneurship. And from there, I started seeing different things happening with my clients. So I know that it kind of runs along the same lines as in the States. The States is much bigger than us for military. But we have 43 MFRCs, or Military Family Resource Centers, or CMFRCs if they're out of the country. So that would be Canadian Military Family Resource Centers. And helping military families deal with a whole lot of things. So we're kind of like our own little ecosystem. We have mental health teams. We have help for deployment. We have childcare. We have all kinds of different supports. My lane in the pool is employment, education, and entrepreneurship. So 2010-11, I started there in 2006. Struck up the job shop. So actually had my own website where I would have spouses be job shoppers, so they could make a profile, and I had employers looking for, of course, job shoppers shopping for jobs. So that turned out great, and got funding to help with that, and to bring it nationally, which was fun, and great learning curve and all of that. 2010, 2011, I discovered PLAR, so we'll talk more about that. I discovered it from Paul Zakos, who is like the god of PLAR. I call him my Starbucks boyfriend. He's long retired, but he does take meetings at Starbucks. So just in case you ever want one, or you can't find me, I'm probably there with him. And he is the godfather of PLAR, which is Prior Learning Assessment and Recognition. And I believe in the States they call it RPL, or Recognition of Prior Learning. I started that program. I ran courses in the spring and the winter for spouses. And then in 2015, we had the Veteran Family Program, so helping veteran families transition as a whole. We had that program stand up in the MFRC, and I was asked if I could take my spouse program and switch it over for veterans. So big, huge learning curve, but you know me, I jumped in with both feet and off I went, and it was fantastic. I learned so much, and so many helpers with that on the base, helping practitioners on the base, and those that work with the military members stepped in to help me build that program. I kept wanting it to go online. The HERCS, so the HERCS stands for Helping Entrepreneurs Reach Complete Success. That program started at Loyalist College, which is our local post-secondary institution in the Belleville area, which is connected very closely to Trenton. We did that, and that was in-house. And in 2015, 2016, it went online, so it was for everyone to enjoy. And I kept saying, what about portfolio? Come on, we got to get this PLAR stuff up. And they're like, oh, yeah. 2020, with all the lockdowns, brought the opportunity to do could you do several employment workshops? And I'm like, better yet, I can do PLAR. And the portfolio was up and running, and it's been doing spectacularly. So in 2022, we actually got our French version. Our official languages in Canada are English and French. So we got our French version up and running. So excited. So I do that. I do a lot of work with bonus sessions or extra, like 1.5 hour sessions, just on a variety of career development topics. And I also do the podcast. So yeah, I got a full plate, and now I have somebody that's doing direct client service along with me, and we're making a great team. It's so exciting to be able to work with the military community and others as well too. So I have my designation in HR. So I have my CHRP and my CHRL, so Human Resource Professional and Human Resource Leader. I didn't go to the executive level. I think that they can do that okay themselves. And I also have my designation as a career development practitioner. So yeah, kind of well-rounded a bit. Yeah. And yeah, that was a long story about what I do.
Oh no. I mean, first of all, that's a big job. And I think probably there's the lack of understanding of what a transition it is, not only for those that serve in the military, but for their spouses when they, are either transitioning out of the military or moving to a different location, and that being able to have that resource available to them to find, even how to go about finding a job. And then we'll talk about PLAR next. But, I think as much visibility we can bring into that gap is probably the best.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. And I find that it's a transition for everyone. And I am a huge fan of military spouses. Mm-hmm. Some of my best friends are military spouses. And just the sacrifice they make for the country to have the soldiers or the military members that we have is fantastic. So if there's things that I can do to help them with their career trajectory, which often gets, kind of put to the side or shuffled around as they get moved around, I'm all for it.
Yeah, absolutely. The spouse role is just so critical. I mean, even just in the mental health of those serving in the military, having that support system at home is so important. And, so I would like to talk about PLAR, so the prior learning work that you equate to. So can you explain a little bit more about the specifics around PLAR? I just want to put a precursor out there that this topic really resonated with me. I think as we look at the career fields in STEM and not having women, so involved, and us still being an underrepresented career sector, through the work of things like PLAR, we can actually help to gain more momentum. So when we were talking, when we first met, and you mentioned this, boy, it tugged on my heartstrings. And so I would love for you to share a little bit more about that program.
Perfect. And I would love to share, because I am so addicted to PLAR, or recognition of prior learning, because it truly has been a gift that was brought to me. I was seeing people posting in, so we call it posting in when you switch from one base to another. I had spouses coming in from both ends of the country. So BC, I had a spouse come in. She had just finished her PSW, so a personal support worker. She'd just finished her course, and she was coming into Trenton. I had another spouse that had worked in the field of healthcare aid coming in from Nova Scotia. So both opposite ends, in they come, and neither one of them can have a job as a PSW because their backgrounds didn't cross over. So even the one that had her PSW from BC that just graduated had to go back to school and take it again, even using the same textbook at that time.
Oh my gosh.
So this was 2010-ish. The other one that had 14 years, I helped her use PLAR, and she was able to take, with our adult education system, she was able to take their PSW course, but she was able to leverage some of her background. So to me, PLAR has been a huge gift, because what it does is a game changer. It helps you leverage the prior learning that you have to get assessed and recognized. So to put it in really simplified terms, it when I work with people around PLAR, and I do the portfolio development. So making a portfolio is only one element of PLAR. Sometimes they'll give you an exam. Sometimes they'll give you an interview. Sometimes if it's trade, sometimes it's a skills demonstration, all of these things. So when people are building their portfolios, I have them dig into a lot of career development elements as they're building those up. But I find people recognize skills and they recognize experience and they recognize their prior learning that they never gave credit to. I always joke and say, don't put a red for sales tag on your forehead. You have some great stuff, right? So looking at all the experiences that you've had and how can you transfer those experiences over to the next great adventure. So I've had people not have post-secondary, actually get advanced standing so that they can take a higher level education that would have required a prerequisite, but they've proven it with their background already. I've had other people that have had advanced standings in a course. I myself, I don't know. I never share or try to teach what I don't understand. So I myself challenge both the Facilitator of Adult Learning Certification and the Social Service Worker Diploma. And I was in Ontario, you can challenge 75% of a diploma program. Mm-hmm. So I took 6 courses instead of 24 and got a 2-year diploma. Portfolio development is hard work. I probably work just as hard building that portfolio, but then what I do is I teach people how to shapeshift it or use it for something else. So PLAR is amazing. I'm part of CAPLA. It's CAPLA, Canadian Association for Prior Learning Assessment. We have a community of learning that people can come in and join and learn more about PLAR. And we have people joining from all over the place. And it's great.
And I would think when you're going through building that portfolio, I mean, that's something that you can offer in addition to your CV, your resume, if you're out seeking employment. And the time spent, is definitely something that they take with them. Like that's their way of proving their their skill set and their experience. So that's got to just mean so much when they're out there looking for a job.
Yeah. And sometimes people, and I don't know if you run into this with the people you talk to, but sometimes people have no clue what they want to do next.
Yeah. Yeah.
I meet people that maybe feel lost or disconnected, or sometimes they can't do the job that, military members that may be medically releasing, they can't do the same trade, but they still have all of this oodle of background knowledge, right? Yep. So how do you leverage and move that over? So I kind of joke, I'm all about the sugar cookies. I kind of joke that the course I've created for portfolio development is like a sugar cookie recipe. So you kind of add the flavors that you want. So I will have people in my courses that are trying to figure out what's next. So I used to call it what to do when I grow up, and somebody told me we're already grown up. I don't know about you, Emily, but I'm never growing up.
Nope.
So those are people that aren't quite sure where they want to go. I have other people that know that they want to challenge education. They know the program. They know that they have some background in it. So how can we challenge or prove with the learning outcomes that you already have learned those things?
Yep.
I have other people that know that they can do a specific job and they're going for that or equivalent as. Mm-hmm. So they're proving that they already have those specific competencies that the jobs are looking for. And also, most recently, I'm really looking at building up something for entrepreneurs. So those people that are just starting out. And the best thing, Emily, is that a portfolio is a portfolio. So yeah. I did portfolio advisor and assessor training to even just start off. It wasn't just that one day I said, hey, Liz, let's make some portfolios. Okay, let's go. I actually took a course with Paul and Mark Gallup, who was at Loyalist at the time. I took a course. We actually had funding from our local training board, and we connected a lot of the Ontario MFRCs together. We took a course, and we had to do advisor and assessor training. So we had to get some background training on how to do this and how to help people, because portfolio development and having somebody reach into their background and pull out their learning can be very intrusive. So, there's factors that you need to know. You need to know a lot about adult education and all of those pieces and parts and help people through. how do you take something? How do you reframe it? How do you pull the learning out from it? And then how can you authentically share it, right? How can you make it so that somebody else on the other side of the fence, so whatever your goal is, can see that you have what they need. And I took my advisor and assessor portfolio, and I was in a meeting. I was wanting to do some HR work. So I have my designation in HR, but I don't do a lot of HR. I stay a lot on the employment, education, career development side. And I decided, you know what? I want a little contract. I want to do a little HR. I'm paying a lot for my designation, and I want to use some of that. And I went in, and they were hemming and hawing. Would they give me the money I want? Would they give me the contract? It was just a couple hours. Would they trust me with their staff and to help them with their HR requirements? And they just happened to mention something, and I mentioned being at this PLAR conference, and they said, well, what's that? And I had the advisor and assessor portfolio, and I said, do you want to see it? They said, yeah. So I didn't bring it with me, so I ran out to the car because I had it. I had just been to the conference days before, and they looked through it. They gave me the top dollar, and they gave me the contract right away, because people can see what you have to offer. And one other thing I do is I make my own words. I'll warn you right now, my kids will laugh, and they know the words I make. But I actually shapeshift. I teach people how to take a portfolio now that you've attained the goal that you wanted, right? How can you move it over so you're keeping a great amount, because it's a lot of work building a portfolio for PLAR. How can you take most of it but put it towards a new goal? So an example would be if I challenged my education and now I have my diploma and I want now to go and get a practicum, or I want to get a job, I'm going to take a lot of my portfolio over with me because my values aren't changing. My background's not changing. A lot of things are staying the same. A lot of the documentation that proved that I had that prior learning will also prove to an employer that I'm a great person to hire.
Yeah, that's amazing. And something you said there, it can feel intrusive almost as you're trying to figure out. And so that leads me to something that I like to talk about, is that transferable skills, because you have to dig deep to document that. So, and I'll just use some examples I've used in the past. You've got maybe a mom who's taken time off. Well, that person still probably has learned a lot about time management, has learned a lot about coordination, things of that nature, which would make her a perfect qualifier for like a project coordinator position. But you have to prove that. So you have to dig deep and think about what those skills are that you have. So, what is your viewpoint on the importance of continuing to dig deep and document those transferable skills to build your portfolio even?
Yeah, humongous. If there's one gift you can give someone you're working with, is to get them to channel their transferable skills and to realize they have them. So many people don't give themselves credit for the skills they come pre-packed with, even from life.
Yep.
Right? Like, we discount ourselves all the time. Oh, I couldn't do that.
Yep.
And sometimes you just have these abilities. Like, quite often when I'm doing that, we actually have a portion of that in our portfolio program. We actually have a document for transferable skills where I actually ask them to list some, but then I say, where did they come from? Because I want people to look broadly. I don't want them to just look at their last few jobs or what they did in school. I want them to look about their life. I want them to look about the things that have happened and where did that come from? And then I actually have them gauge what level is that transferable skill. So quite often people will list their transferable skills. They'll talk about them and they're like, yeah, I get that transferable skill stuff. Okay, so I did this, so I can do it here, and I get that. But they don't actually give themselves credit to the level of mastery that they have. So I will say to somebody, could you teach someone? Because to me, if I can teach someone something, I feel like I've mastered it enough that I can actually share it with someone else.
Yeah.
Or am I just beginning? Do I need more work? And they're like, well, I wouldn't put that on there if I needed more work. Why would I say that I needed more work? And I said, because it shows that you're learning as you go, right?
Yep.
It shows that I'm embracing AI or I'm embracing this technology, but I still need more work. And then some people, they're good, solid in the middle. So they're still increasing, but they know that they have those skills. So yeah, transferable skills all over the place, definitely.
And there's no shame in saying, I'm not quite sure how, I know it, but I could use help. I could use more knowledge to be able to say that instead of, an expert, I'm somewhere in the middle. I mean, it can feel uncomfortable to say I'm not an expert, but sometimes you just need help. Sometimes you just need to grow yourself in that particular skill. And I think it shows, that character and the fact that you're ready to go out there and get a little gritty when it comes to needing to build that skill up.
Yeah, exactly. And depending on who you share it with, they may have the answer of how you can buck that up, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
If you're sharing it with someone who's a career development practitioner or somebody who's coaching you, and they go, wait a minute, I just heard of a course that will fill that gap, right?
Yep.
Some people will think portfolio is about collecting everything I have. And I will say to people, it's about collecting everything you have, but it's also about looking at where's the end goal, how close can you get to it, and what's missing? Because then let's focus on what's missing and how can we fit that in, or how can we get those skills?
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So exactly.
I love that. And that's got to be such a unique experience to walk through with somebody who's never taken the time to think about, I'll share an example. So when I was in my last role, I hired a lot of desktop technicians. So typically it's a level 1 type of role. And I had somebody who had worked in served as like a sous chef but wanted to break into doing tech. He'd taken his A+ certification, so he had that. And I was like, for you to be able to maintain a chef type role in the kitchen, you probably have amazing time management. Because you have to have everything ready at just the right time. And there are so many skills that outside of the tech, it just made sense to have them grow into that career field if they wanted to. And it was kind of fun to watch that kind of play out in his head as we were talking through it.
Yeah. And don't you find, I don't know when I'm working with folks because I've been doing it for so long, because I'm not 27, I almost see the writing on the wall behind them.
Yeah.
Like I'm looking at their resume, and I'm looking at their information. I'm getting to know them. If we're working together on portfolio, I mean, it's a series of weeks to get to know folks, right?
Yep.
And you can see it. And really in career development, you can't really read the wall to them. You can't really say, well, I think you should do this and this and this, because I would never want to be responsible for someone's Monday, right?
Yeah,
I think you have to decide on your own Mondays, right? You have to decide on your own job, your own journey, all of those things. But I said to Paul, what if I see the writing on the wall and I can see all the pieces come together? Because he was my guru when it came to learning this stuff. Yeah. He said, just read the darn wall. And I'm like, oh my God, I can? And he's like, yeah. So I'm really careful because of the work that I do. I'm really careful that I don't prescribe or read the wall directly to people, but I will give them the same insight that you did, right?
Yep.
This is what I think, and correct me if I'm wrong. Right?
Yep.
I think if you're a chef, you would know how to do this and this and this, right? Because again, somebody doing the role, like how often do you go out and do your job and come home and you're like, I'm going to take my paper and I write down all the things I learned today?
No, you don't take time for it.
Yeah. Here's my greatness.
Yeah.
But portfolio makes you do that. It does I call it an internal audit and then an external audit, right?
I love
it looks at me, myself. What do I want? What do I need? What makes me tick, right? Mm-hmm. And people will talk about value alignment, and they'll talk about aligning your values to an employer. But when I teach, I start with aligning your values just to yourself. What do you value? Why do you value them? All of those kind of pieces and parts. And then we align it to an employer, right? Mm-hmm. Authentically, as your name is, and as I believe, I want to help people get to where they want to be.
Yep.
And when people are lost, they can't see it.
Yep.
Right? They get caught in all of that brain chatter and all of the stuff that's going on, and all of those shoulda this and I coulda that and I need this, or they've got perception as to where they think they should be, but they haven't felt the steps yet. So it's those great questions, right? So I will tell people that, portfolio can get in your brain. We actually joke and we say we have portfolio brain. I have a whole whack of people that are linked to me on LinkedIn that will very much say, I have portfolio brain. I'm like, tell people you have it. Like, be proud, because it means that you're seeing the value of the learning that you have in empowering who you are and where you're going to go. So you're right. Exactly. Being able to help people to see the value they already bring, very, very powerful.
Yeah. And something that you said there really resonates with me, because I do it all the time. I can't get out of my own head.
Yeah.
You know, you're cycling through of what happened, and I can't get out of my own way. I need to reduce my own noise. And the way I think that we perceive things is probably 10 times worse than it actually is. But if you can just filter through that. And the same thing's true with skills and the value that you bring. You know, it's really hard to take a step back and to remember to assess and to your point, write it down, you know, and be proud of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Take a bow. Like, honestly, I have met so many amazing people that just discount what they have.
Yep.
Or they don't see it. And I'm like, wow, you walk in and the presence is huge. Or I turn on Zoom and it's like I'm overpowered with all of the things that I know you have, because we've built that rapport and you're not seeing them. So, you know, kind of starting to bring those up and starting to, you know, I did a session on imposter syndrome.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And I was joking with a friend of mine, and I said, I feel like I should just say, hi, I'm Liz, imposter syndrome, because I feel like so many people have it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And everybody wants a cure for it. And I said, you want a cure for imposter syndrome? Make a portfolio, because when you see your greatness, it counteracts all that.
Yeah.
Right? When you actually have it physically in writing, and we talk about documentation, like, it's not just I say I have these skills, so therefore take my word for it. We actually have weeks that we talk about documentation, how to document your skills and how to prove them, and all of these pieces and parts, right? But when you start to see those things come together, so empowering, so hugely impactful. And, you know, Emily, I actually added on presentation skills at the end of my course, because I have people making fantastic portfolios that were bowling me over. Like, I will assess them at the end if they want me to. Mm-hmm. And I have a partnership with Loyalist College that they have a joint certificate they get. And they can use that for a credit if they decided that they wanted to go back to school. And I will assess these, and I will be in awe, and I will get online and I will talk to the person after assessing, or I will be filling out and having a chat with them. And they're like, oh yeah, but and I'm like, are you kidding?
Yeah.
So I thought, you know what? No, we are not holding back on our greatness. If you have made this robust portfolio, you need to feel comfortable in sharing it, but only where you want it to go.
Yep.
So we added in that presentation skills piece, because, you know, really you've got to get people interested in wanting to see it, mm-hmm. because a lot of people don't know what they are, right?
Yep.
And, you know, get them embraced to wanting to see it, get them to do, you know, those whole informational interviews, virtual coffee chats, all of those kind of things, very powerful, but hard to ask for, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Oh, I love that. It's one of the panelists we had on, and the episode hasn't pushed yet, but she said, take the time to document your 3 stories that you're most proud of in your career. And I could see where that would be a good starting board to help guide that portfolio, because there's skills that took for you to be that proud of what you've done. So I love this whole conversation. It's just so important. I think, to your point, people just discount their value, and it's time to, like, I love that. Take a bow.
Yeah. And it took me a long time to take one, and now I'm like all over it, because if I'm having people do it, I'm going to try to do it too, because the fact is, we do have that chatter in our head, right?
Get out of our heads.
We do have that, who do you think you are? And so-and-so can do that. Everybody can do that. Well, you know what? Everybody can't do that.
Yep.
Right? So take credit. I'm not trying to make people arrogant and pompous. I'm trying to get people to understand what they have to offer and actually leverage it towards what they want, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think being arrogant and pompous, people are so afraid of coming off that way. Yeah. And instead, it's just, you know, pride in yourself and what you've done, and let that show. It's two completely different things, but once you've experienced somebody, coming into a room and just being so arrogant that it makes you uncomfortable, you're like, I don't want to ever do that.
Yeah, I have met in doing this work for almost 24 years. I have met like two people, I think, that I've had to pull back and kind of really carefully say, you're not all that in 14 bags of chips. Like, tame it down. Like, what's going on, right?
Yeah.
And usually it was a confidence factor, right?
Yeah.
Most people, I would draw a circle and a line, and I was going to say, this is the line that you're so scared to cross, and you are like not even in the circle yet. So you will not cross that line. I pretty much guarantee it. You are good to go. Share some of your excellence and see what happens.
I absolutely love that. They think the other thing that you're probably helping to serve as is a coach and mentor to a lot of these individuals who are coming through. What do you feel about like the whole process? And I guess on the other side of that, if you find somebody who's got that talent, do you help to match up or help to find coaches and mentors at all through the portfolio process?
For them to become coaches and mentors, you mean? Or
for helping them find coaches and mentors and awesome.
Yeah. It depends on what they want to do and where they want to go with it. In most cases, myself and anyone co-facilitating with me will coach and mentor to a certain point.
Yep.
But then hand them over or make those warm introductions to the people that can be coaches and mentors in where they want to go. Mm-hmm. So for instance, with STEM or specific careers, I have my HR and I have contacts, but I in no way will understand the industry they are in.
Yep.
But I have helped people to reach out to those industry experts and say, hey, I have somebody that's doing portfolio that would be really interested in, having 10 or 15 minutes of your time just to share and have a chat. They used to call them informational interviews, and people used to, HR people used to go, like this to me. And I'd be like, well, it's not a big deal. And then, times are changing. And during the pandemic, I was helping with some HRPA stuff. And I just happened to ask, would anybody entertain this? Unanimously, everybody's like, we would certainly love to meet people and chat about what they might want to do in the industries that we are doing HR and recruitment for. So we definitely will connect them with people and help them through. It's finding the connections that align most to the goals that the people want to attain, right?
Yep.
In the schools, I will pretty much connect them with whoever's doing PLAR or pathways in the school so that they can help them in the program of their choice. Again, I would never want to be or try to be a subject matter expert in everything. I'm going to connect them to the people that are in the knows that can get them there. I just want to get people the furthest, the fastest, and then get them to the channel that they need to be. So connecting them with mentors and connecting them with coaches that can get them there. Even myself, I still have mentors that I've worked with for years that I am constantly reaching out to and saying, how about this and this? And with the CDP, so in getting my career development practitioner certification, I actually did some mentorship for a couple people to get their designations as well too. So it's an up and coming, I guess I want to say up and coming. I think it's been around for a while, but they're trying to make it national. So it's all moving out east to get their certifications. So prior to, the Ontario Association said, does anybody want to mentor? And I actually took on a couple people that we've had some really great connections. And I don't know about you, but when I mentor someone, I learn just as much or more from them. Yeah. So I'm always in awe, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, even the 5-minute conversations, you typically walk away. And I always say that it means as much to the person who's being, the coach gets as much out of it as the person who you're coaching. There's something that just is so helpful. I had a call with my coach today, and he asked me some tough questions that I need to answer. And that's the type of person that, you need to be able to pick up the phone and call. So
I love them.
Yeah, thank you.
You'll have to share some questions with me because I am like a nerd when it comes to great questions. and you're right. I think that with a coach or a mentor, I think it's so important to have somebody that will challenge you or
Yep.
somebody that will push you. So for instance, a couple of weeks ago, I did a TED Talk style talk,
Oh, fun.
and I was like, oh yeah, I can do that. And then she's like, well, you're not gonna have a bunch of notes. And I'm like, yeah, can we have PowerPoint? Because I always have PowerPoint. No, it's TED Talk. I'm
Yep.
like, oh no. Oh my God. Talk about, I felt like I jumped in the water cold, or I was like, what am I doing? I was freaking out. Like I was trying to put myself in order.
Yep.
And I just had to keep that inner voice from saying, Liz, don't run. You're
Yep.
going to be fine. You know
Yep.
your stuff. I can hear my husband, you know your stuff,
Yep.
right? But these people, like, and my other mentor was in the room at the same time. It was funny because they were sitting a little bit away from each other. And I just thought, if there's two women on the face of the planet that can push me or challenge me or get me out of my own comfort zone and make me do something like this, it's them.
Perfect.
So yeah, somebody that will push you or, make you accountable.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And, it's those voices that we need. And, I found a lot of those, and you brought up networking, which I think is also so important. Just being able to get and put yourself out there to meet other people. Our conversation started because we both know Diane.
Yeah.
And Diane came to me through a connection of somebody else. And so the power of just talking to people and being able to put people together to have these types of conversations is so important. What are your ideas or strategies that you would like to share, or could you share about networking that you may also share with people who come through your portfolio program?
Yeah. I mean, networking, I was always the wallflower at conferences, and I witnessed my mentor. God, could she work a room? We would leave a conference and I'd have, the 3 plushies and a couple pens, and she would have contacts galore. And I was like, she is magic.
Mm-hmm.
And I have been, channeling her in my own mind. During the pandemic, I actually worked alongside Matt Richardson, and we did a session on networking, and I actually built a robust strategy to help people from the bottom up, right?
Yep.
With a whole bunch of questions like, who are you taking, and
Yep.
where are you going, and what are you saying, and all of these pieces and parts. I don't know about you, but I think in order to network well, you need to know yourself well.
Mm-hmm.
You need to actually be able to know, what do you want and what do you need, and all of those pieces and parts, right? You need to feel like, what are you after?
Yep.
When I'm networking, what am I after? And to me, as that wallflower, sometimes all I was after is to make a couple connections I didn't have before.
Yep.
Right? And to me, that was success.
Yep.
Right? One of the things I'll tell to people, if they're really scared about networking, I mean, we talk about extroverts and introverts and all of that stuff. If you're really scared, the last thing I talk about when we do our strategy for networking is to be kind to yourself and know when it's time to leave, right? Some
Yep.
people will get energy from networking. They go in, they meet a bunch of people and they chat, and other people will need a nap after,
Yep.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So really getting to know yourself and, really looking at what connections do you need. Making the ask is so important, but knowing when to ask. I don't know about you, but I've linked with people on LinkedIn, and right away they're in my DMs and they're sending me all these requests and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, come on. Like, no,
Yeah.
you need to build some rapport up. You need some back and forth. You need, I don't know about you. I look at it as a karma piece, right? Too.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Really getting to know each other and really supporting. And I know that a lot of people want to help people, right? I think that everybody innately is good. They want to help people, but knowing when to ask and how to ask and why to ask, and that whole reciprocation, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm with you. I don't know the whole connecting on LinkedIn and then getting an automatic direct message has just gotten out of control. I think today I had about 12 and at least, maybe go like some content or something first.
Yeah. Give me this or buy me this, or I have this course. It's only $9.99 or do this or do that. And I'm like, no.
I know. And I also, I completely echo your statement of people just want to help people. And, I think that's I think when you first start out, especially when you don't have a lot of experience, maybe you're reaching out to somebody who does, it's a little bit scary. You're not quite sure what to say. But if you're just truly coming forward with, hey, I just want 10, could I get 10 minutes? Would be eternal grateful.
Yeah.
People are going to respond.
Yeah. Yeah. And I teach and I talk, and I actually have an episode on asking that, right?
Awesome.
Asking for that virtual coffee chat or that in-person informational interview. And, when you ask for 10 minutes, take 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, I have had people say, can I have 10 minutes of your time? I'm like, yeah, sure. And then they're still going on and on and on. I'm like, I got to go, right?
Yeah,
so it's that respect factor, right? And I'll say to people, when you're meeting with someone and you've asked for 10 minutes, make sure you stick under that 10 minutes.
Yep.
When the 10 minutes comes, draw attention to it. Say, hey, you know what, Emily, it's encroaching on the 10 minutes. Thank you so much for your time. And if they want to continue, then it's continue, right?
Yep.
It's up to them, but you still have that respect. But you're so right, knowing what you're asking for, right?
Mm-hmm.
I always look at what's missing, what do I need, and who can connect me, and how can I connect them as well too, right?
Yep.
So that whole reciprocation, that whole back and forth is so important.
100%. It's how everybody grows. I mean, you need that expansion to grow, and we all get better for it. We're all going to have a better outcome. So, yeah.
Because we can't all be subject matter experts on everything.
Yep.
And I find that if I can share some of the things I know, like you said earlier with your mentors and your coaches, we're always learning with the people that we work with, right? So I always feel that if I can give, that whole back and forth thing is so important. I've seen people that have actually, years ago, they used to do advisor and assessor training at the conference every year. And I would have military spouses take the course, and they would be so good at their portfolios, and they would be so embracing, why doesn't everybody do this? It's like a big hidden secret that they would go to the conference and take advisor and assessor training. And as they posted, they could introduce it to their new community. So it was pretty magic.
That is awesome. That's amazing. I love that. Well, I just, the work that you're doing, it, like I said, it really does hit home. I look at the whole STEM career sector, just because, again, that's my subject matter, that I know, just how it's suffering from a lack of being able to get females into the sector, and being able to have a program like PLAR and have people be able to, come forward and show that they've got the skill set, give them a chance. I just, it's just so important to me. And I think it's going to help with bringing others into the STEM careers. And I applaud you for the work that you are doing. It's just so amazing to me. What are some of the things that you have on the horizon?
I would love to conquer the PLAR universe. So come and jump on the train with me, and let's go.
Yeah, let's go.
When it comes to STEM, and when it comes to young girls embracing that and realizing that, hey, why can't I?
Yeah.
So important and so powerful, right?
Yep.
And, I grew up in a time where they would say, oh, girls aren't good in math. And I was good in math.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why not?
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
I actually, when I moved to the forest here with my husband, I actually decided I needed to be a plumber because we needed one. And I got talked into going for auto mechanics, believe it or not. So I did Common Core auto mechanics, and I said, I want to be a plumber. And they said, well, it was women in trades and technology at the time. And they said, well, take this course and you can be a plumber after. I'm like, okay. So I took auto mechanics, and I still use what I learned today. I ended up pregnant with my third son right after. So plumber, I wasn't. Mechanic, I wasn't. But I used the skills. But then, again, those transferable skills, I understand some of the apprenticeship stuff and knowing some of that trade stuff, right? So, I would love to build tools that everybody can use to make PLAR easier. It always seems to be a pilot project or kind of blowing in the wind, right? And like you said, people can't always see their greatness. And when you can name it and you can point it out, and if you had some really successful women that are in STEM now build portfolios and then help the younger ones coming up to see their own greatness by, look what I've attained, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Again, that I'm sure that they don't run home from their jobs doing STEM and write down everything and I'm going to make a portfolio. But if they did, and if they started to see the difference they make in their industry and could share it with the ones coming up, very powerful stuff.
That's amazing. And honestly, mid-career, it's probably a fantastic exercise to go through. And I look at what's happening in the tech sector where so many women were impacted by layoffs that, taking a minute while you're unemployed and trying to figure out where you're going next to be able to develop something like that, I think would be a very powerful exercise for a lot of people.
It's huge. And that's why I love doing it online with our folks that are out of Canada, because not all of them can work.
Yep.
And taking that downtime, quite often the downtime can have a spiral the other way, right? Yep. You can start to doubt yourself. You can start to say, I might as well just go do this kind of job because I won't get that again. Looking at challenging so many things that you can with your portfolio, so many things, right? Whether they're going to move sectors or not, they need to prove what they've already gained to begin with. Another thing that happens too is if somebody's facing a layoff, and they start to build their portfolio based on what they used to do. And then they start taking those transferable skills. They can start to see opportunities. But then what I coach them to do is reach back and get letters of verification. So a little bit different than letters of recommendation, but verifying the skills that they have. Well, Emily, believe it or not, when you start asking for those things and you know how to ask for them properly and you've built the backup, so don't just go cold asking for them. You need to build up the backup documentation for what you're asking for, because sure enough, they might say, why don't you make it and I'll sign it?
Yeah.
And then you're like, okay, wait a minute, I got to go make it. But I teach how to prepare those requests. All of a sudden, those people know that you're looking in the same field and they may know someone.
Yeah.
So again, you're starting to network. So very powerful stuff, very powerful stuff. And then realizing what you already have, right? Sometimes working with military members that are medically releasing, they can just see that their career is done and their trade may be finished, but they don't see all of the vast experience that they have and what they can transition over to and what they could become. And, if you can't do it anymore, could you teach it? Or could you write about it? Or could you be part of this industry piece of it, right?
Yep.
Sometimes if we can't have it all, there's still a piece we can have that can really impact where we go next and what happens in our communities because we did that. So yeah, if people are facing layoffs and they're not sure of their next steps, really embracing where they've been and what they've done, and then to push forward so that, that internal audit first, right?
Yep.
What do I want? What do I need? Where have I been? What have I done? Doing all of those pieces and then push it to now, what do I want? Mm-hmm. Very impactful.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, thank you for being here. I could keep this conversation going for about 14, 15 days.
Yeah, me too. We'll connect later too.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for being here tonight. I really appreciate this conversation. And like I said, the work that you're doing is truly meaningful and is going to make such a difference in people's lives and has made such a difference. So thank you for the work that you are doing and supporting military families and just as a whole, others trying to get that credit, write their portfolios and figure life out. I mean, we get one chance, right? So
That's right. So why wouldn't you just collect what you already have and leverage it towards where it is that you want to go? So yeah, connect with me on LinkedIn and see what magic we can make. Because for sure, I'm all over that.
Awesome.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Producer Ken, thanks for being here tonight.
You got it.
Appreciate it. And as always, and we have a pretty good backdrop tonight of the mural that we typically see half of behind me. But thank you to Go Art here in Batavia, New York, for the use of their podcast studio. And it's a beautiful community art center. So highly encourage people to come check it out. Yeah. Liz, thank you so much again. This has just been a wonderful conversation, and I really appreciate your time.
And right back at you. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, awesome. Have a great rest of your week. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay, thanks. Bye-bye.